Hey, greetings, it's Daniel, and today I'm going to talk about Christian witches. We're here to stay. So, basically, I wanted to say that we're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. This is a serious path for us. This is our spirituality. And whatever your beliefs about us, I feel like we deserve respect and the courtesy of allowing us to practice our path in peace. I often get comments that some people, I've grown a thick skin, but like people often will send me messages. There's no such thing as a Christian witch. It's an oxymoron. Um, you're just afraid you're gonna go to hell. That's why you're still keeping your Christian. Um, or of course I get negative comments from Christians too. But believe it or not, most of my negative comments are not from Christians, but actually from the New Age and pagan community. Christians I think they tend to just avoid any thing with a title witch in it to begin with, and the ones that do stray over here may have a negative comment too, but I just think they tend to avoid anything with that in there. That's why I don't get that many of those comments. But one of the biggest things I hear is just, I'm not knowledgeable about anything, that somehow that because I call myself a Christian witch, that somehow I don't have any relationship with divinity. Even though I've explained 100 times in my videos that my spirituality is not Bible-based, like I do not base my spirituality on the Bible, I have pagans quoting Bible verses to me, more than I ever have Christians quoting Bible verses to me. And I understand that a lot of pagans have been hurt by the Christianity, but how many times can I say that my Christianity is not their Christianity? When I say Christianity, I'm talking about my personal relationship with Jesus Christ and how I incorporate my path. It is not a dogmatic faith. The Bible says this, therefore I believe it. I find personal strength and insight in the Bible, but I do not believe it's error-free and errant. I do not believe the translation is always correct. I think there's I don't believe a lot of stuff. I think the Bible can be a good book, but it can be a really horrible book too. There's stuff in the Bible that's just absolutely horrible in my opinion, but there's also some really good stuff. And I think you have to take the good with the bad. And what I mean by that is, you understand that everything in there is for you, and you have to rely on divinity, whatever you call it, to lead you in the right path. So I can open my Bible and I can find inspiring things that lead me and draw me closer to divinity. But I also, if I chose to, I could use fine things to persecute others and do horrible and mean things to people and justify my actions. Because religion is not a moral compass. I don't think that religion provides a moral compass. Because you can take something that people say is moral and make it immoral. That's kind of another topic. But what I just wanted to say is, we're here to stay. I know Christian people who have been Christian witches since before I was born. They keep themselves private, and some of these people calling themselves Christian witches have never been involved in Wicca or paganism or anything like that. A lot of times, though, they do tend to be influenced more by conjure and hoodoo and powwowing, although they wouldn't necessarily use those labels for themselves. But they embrace the term witch. I have friends who embraced the term witch in the 50s and 60s and 70s and had no contact with the neo-pagan community for many, many years. They just felt called to do so. And they began to practice magic, and they began to study a lot of stuff that they got the original hands on were ceremonial magic books. The Greater and Lesser Key of Solomon, things of that nature. And they borrowed and blended, and then some of them came across early Wiccan books, and I borrowed stuff from there, but they still maintained their faith in Jesus Christ. And I want to make it clear too that we're not trying to convert anyone. At least the majority of Christian witches I met, they're not here to try to convert you to their faith in Christ, because reality, they think your spirituality is an individual path. So Jesus may be the way for us, but he not necessarily means the way for you. There's more ways up the mountain than one, and not every path is leading up the mountain, so to speak. There's more than one destination, and I don't want to say all spiritual paths lead to the same point, because they don't. That's not a fair statement. Because if you really seriously study religion, and I have more than just paganism. I've studied religion. So the central message of every religion is not the same. I mean, some of them have very, very conflicting different views. That does not mean that I don't think that there's spiritual truth to those for those people who practice them. I believe that the universe has infinite possibilities and is simply beyond the capacity of the human brain to comprehend. So because of that, I don't perceive that there is only one way for something to be true. Because while I do believe there are certain absolute truths, I think truth can be relevant to people in spiritual paths. In different law, like let's take the law of gravity. It has more or less effect depending on where we are in the universe. So the closer we are to the sun, the more the gravity pulls on us and the farther away. And I kind of see that way with spirituality too. That doesn't necessarily mean that is not true, that in this earth if you drop something it's going to fall because of the law of gravity. And you're in outer space and it doesn't. It simply means that not everything doesn't always apply to every situation. If I'm not rambling on making any sense, I understand. But the point of this video is just to say, keep an open mind. We're not trying to force you to believe what we believe. We are not trying to do that. I mean, we are serious practitioners. Most of the Christian witches I know are very serious practitioners. Some of us do consider ourselves pagans, like Christo-pagans. I'm on the fence on that term, but I definitely consider myself on a pagan-inspired path. I believe in an earth-based, nature-based religion. I follow the cycle of the season, the powers of the land. Divinity is very important to me, probably more important than than magic, although because I'm a witch, magic plays an important part in my spiritual path, but for many people it doesn't. I also borrow from Celtic spirituality, druidry, and things like that, as you know, and among other things. But it's not, I call myself eclectic, but I think some people think of it as like I'm taking religion as a buffet line, and then I'm just taking a little bit of, I want a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I don't think that's right. The way I see it is I'm making a cake, and I need very specific things to make this cake. But I also have some freedom to pull in something, some freedom of choice of what kind of cake do I want to be, a chocolate cake, a vanilla cake. I mean, I can have all these different choices, but you still have to follow a basic recipe. There's still a certain, there are certain rules for a cake to be a cake, but that doesn't mean that you can't have inspired and borrow things from other things. And so that's kind of the way I am. I consider myself a witch, which is, of course, witchcraft is not a religion. It's a practice and a spirituality for some. And of course, Christianity in its earliest form would not have considered itself a Christian. It was a way of life also, although and many Christians dislike the term religion even to this day, although some do. So I mean, hope I'm not rambling on too much, but my point is, we're here to stay. And you can say there's no such thing as Christian witches, but we're here. You can make light and jokes of us, and you can write us off as, just silly people who are deceived or just fooling ourselves, and maybe that's so. But my relationship with divinity doesn't change based on your opinion of the labels I call myself or the path that I follow. 10, 15, 20 years from now, I'm still going to have a relationship with divinity, thinking I'm still on this plane of existence. And I'm pretty sure I'm probably still going to be calling myself a Christian witch. I'm not going to bind myself to any label because, as you know, I've just labeled more than once on this channel. But labels are just ways to describe yourself to people to help them understand where you're coming across. I feel called to the term Christian and witch, so that's what I use. If tomorrow divinity leads me in a different direction, I'm going to follow divinity because that's where I'm going. And notice I try to use non-specific terms for the higher power. I call it divinity because I myself have experienced divinity in non-Christian ways. I have connected to pagan deities many times. I have close, what I like to call allies, with pagan deities. I have relationships with them because I see them as aspects of the whole. I honor them as individuals, but still aspects of the whole. And that's the same way I see with the Christian deities. Now, people can disagree with me, and that's fine. I have hard polytheist friends who think I'm absolutely crazy, who disagree, and I have monotheist friends who also disagree. And then there's me, who's really, in a sense, I would consider myself monotheist in a sense. I believe in one eternal force with a whole bunch of different aspects. So for me, all the deities and stuff are different aspects of the same thing, because I think that divinity is just so beyond the human capacity to understand, and we're just never going to understand it. And that's what makes sense to me here and now. But hopefully you got something about this out of this video that wasn't too much rambling. Many blessings.